You are on your side in the dark, cheek pressed into something that should be snow but isn't soft at all. It's packed hard like salt and stone, and it burns where it touches your skin. Your eyelids are stuck half-closed from ice crust, and when you force them open, the world swims, black sky, white ground, and shapes moving like they're underwater. You try to inhale, and the air cuts the inside of your nose like a blade. Your throat is dry, swollen, and every breath tastes like metal. Somewhere above you, a sound drags through the night, wood scraping rock, ropes snapping tight, men shouting without words, only noise. Then a heavy rumble starts, low at first like distant thunder, but it's not thunder. It's stone and snow giving way. The mountain is moving. You push up on your forearms, and your hands don't feel like hands. They're stiff clubs. Your fingers won't close around anything. You try anyway, because you need to grab something, anything, before gravity does what it always does up here. Your body screams with a pain that isn't clean pain, more like your joints are full of broken glass. You look down and see the drop. It isn't even a drop. It's an open mouth. Fog fills it, and the fog swallows sound. You can't tell where the ground ends and the air begins. One wrong shift and you are gone, and no one will find you until spring, if at all. You feel the ground tremble again. Pebbles skitter past your face and vanish. Somewhere close an elephant bellows, deep, terrified, and the sound is so big it makes you feel small in a way you've never felt before. The bellow cuts off fast like someone strangled it. You don't know if it fell. You don't know if it's still alive. You don't know if you will be. Your breath comes out in short bursts. You try to listen, to read the mountain by sound. The scraping gets louder. A plank snaps. Something heavy slides, then hits, then slides again. You can't see it, but you can feel it in your teeth. The men around you are shapes crouched and clinging, their faces wrapped, eyes bright with panic. You taste fear in the air, sour sweat trapped under wool, piss leaking into cloth, the sharp stink of smoke from torches that can't stay lit in this wind. The cold is not just cold, it's pressure. It presses into your ears, your jaw, your ribs. It makes every thought slow and stupid. You are aware of one thing: the mountain doesn't care. Not about you, not about Hannibal, not about Rome, not about the elephants. It will crush anything on it and forget. A third tremor hits, stronger. You feel it through your elbows into your shoulder sockets. Snow dust lifts into the air like flour. Someone slips nearby, boots skidding, nails scratching on rock. The sound is quick, desperate. Then there's a clean silence where a human should be. No scream, just absence. You clamp your teeth so hard your jaw aches, and you drag your body sideways, belly scraping over ice, trying to get closer to the rock face. Your cloak catches on something and jerks you backward. You twist and see a rope looped around your waist. It's the only reason you haven't slid already. The rope is taut, vibrating like a living thing. It leads into the darkness where other men are tied in. If one goes, the rope can take the rest. You understand that in a blink with no one explaining it. Survival math. That's what the Alps turn you into. You press your face to the ice again and you wait for the mountain to decide. And then, before the next tremor, before the next falling stone, everything cuts. You are not there anymore.
You are here, safe enough, warm enough on the other side of time. You are about to step into an old disaster and feel it from the inside. You are about to march with Hannibal Barca as he drives an army, men, horses, and elephants, toward the most brutal mountain crossing in the ancient world. This is a slow, immersive simulation of survival and collapse. If you want to keep living through history with your eyes open, subscribe now. Stay close. Move carefully. You're going to need every chapter. Now, you go back. You go back to heat. You go back to stink and dust and sun glare. You go back to the moment before the cold ever touched your skin, when the idea of crossing the Alps still sounded like a plan instead of a death sentence. You are in the lowland camp where the ground is dry and hard, stamped flat by thousands of feet. It's late summer, and the air sits heavy on your shoulders like a wet blanket. The sun burns down without mercy, turning metal hot enough to sting when it touches skin. Sweat runs down your spine and pools under your belt. Flies swarm everything: your face, your food, the latrines, the dead scraps tossed behind tents. Every breath tastes like dust kicked up by men and animals, dust mixed with smoke from cook fires and the thick, greasy smell of fat rendering in pots. You are not a hero. You are not a name that will be carved into stone. You are one body in a sea of bodies, tired from marching, tired from being ordered, tired from pretending you understand where this road ends. You know the basics. Rome is the enemy. Carthage wants Rome broken. Hannibal is the man who believes it can be done. The rest is rumor and bravado passed around fires at night. Some men say you'll raid along the coast. Some say you'll fight in Gaul. Some say you'll die before winter. Most men don't say what they really fear out loud, because fear spreads like disease in an army. You move through the camp, and you feel the weight of it. Tents, wagons, stacks of spears, mules braying, horses stamping, men sharpening blades that are already sharp. The sound never stops. It's a constant grinding mix of iron on stone, shouted orders, coughing, laughter that sounds too loud, arguments over bread, animals crying for water. You smell old sweat soaked into leather. You smell urine baked into dirt. You smell wounds, infected cuts wrapped in cloth, the sweet rot of flesh that doesn't heal right. You smell the elephants, and it's like standing near a warm wall that breathes. Their waste stinks strong enough to make your eyes water. Their bodies smell of wet hide and grass and something musky and wild that doesn't belong in any camp. You have seen elephants before, but never like this, never so close, never forced into the machinery of war. They are too large to ignore. Each one is a moving landmark. Their feet are round and cracked, the skin on their legs thick like old tree bark. Their eyes are small and watchful, not stupid, not gentle. They sway as they stand, shifting weight the way exhausted men do, and you can see the strain in their shoulders when they turn. They eat constantly. They pull bundles of fodder toward their mouths with trunks that work like hands. Their handlers keep them calm with routines: water, brush, touch, voice. Because if an elephant panics in a crowded camp, it doesn't matter how loyal you are. You become paste under its feet. You walk past them and you catch it, that thin edge of dread you can't name. It's not just the size, it's the fact that they're here at all. Elephants belong in warm places, in open ground where they can breathe. They do not belong on narrow paths or steep inclines. You don't know the Alps yet, not truly, but you've heard the word. You've heard it spoken like a dare. You've heard veterans say it's all rock and snow and death. And you look at the elephants and you think, without wanting to, someone is going to make these animals go where animals shouldn't go. Your mouth is dry from heat and from thinking. You find water in a skin that tastes of old leather and smoke. You drink anyway. The water is warm, but it keeps your tongue from sticking to the roof of your mouth. You wipe your face and smear dirt into the sweat. The grit becomes a second skin. Your sandals rub your heel raw, and each step reminds you how far you've already walked and how far you're about to walk again. The camp sits near a river, and you can hear it if you listen through the noise, a steady movement under everything. That sound should be comforting. It's not. It means you're still moving. It means there's no staying. Armies don't stop because you're tired. Armies stop when they run out of road or run into an enemy who forces them to stop. You think about Rome, even if you've never seen it. You imagine stone walls and soldiers in clean lines, supplies that never run out, a city that can throw men into battle the way a rich man throws coins. You imagine their confidence. You imagine their surprise if you appear where you're not supposed to appear, north, over mountains, coming down like a storm. That's the idea, everyone says. That's the plan. But plans don't matter to your feet. Plans don't matter to your stomach. Plans don't matter when you're bleeding from blisters and your shoulders ache from carrying a shield that feels heavier every day. The days blur into marching. You rise before the sun, pack fast, and step into a line that stretches farther than you can see. The road is a strip of beaten earth and stone. The air starts cool and turns brutal by midday. Your skin tightens from salt as sweat dries. Your throat cracks. You learn to ration water without anyone telling you. You learn to chew dried meat slowly so it lasts longer. You learn the sound of a man collapsing from heat. First the stumble, then the hard fall, then the curse or the silence, depending on how bad it is. Sometimes you leave them by the roadside, because stopping for one body can cost the whole column time, and time is life when you're moving through hostile land. You pass through places where people watch you from hills and tree lines. You can't always tell if they're curious, afraid, or waiting to cut throats when the sun goes down. The locals speak languages that slide past your ears. They sell what they can, grain, goats, wine, at prices that feel like robbery, and your officers pay because hunger makes men dangerous. When hunger runs short, discipline frays. You see it in the way hands hover near knives during ration lines. You see it in the way men stare too long at pack animals, imagining meat. Hunger starts as a nuisance, then it becomes a voice, then it becomes the only voice. Still, there are moments that almost feel normal. You sit by a fire at night and warm your palms. You pick stones out of your sandals. You watch sparks rise and disappear into darkness. You hear distant laughter and you feel a bitter relief that someone can still laugh. You sleep with your weapons close because you've learned that safety is never given, only taken, and even then it can be stolen back.
As the weeks go on, the land changes. It rises in slow stages. Hills become longer, steeper. Trees thin out in places. The air is still warm, but nights start to bite. You wake with a chill you didn't have before, and you pull your cloak tighter without thinking. You begin to see breath in the morning sometimes, faint and quick. The men talk about the Alps more openly now. It's not a joke anymore. It's a thing you can point toward in the distance on clear days, a jagged pale line against the sky. At first it looks like cloud, then it looks like teeth. You remember the first time you see them properly. You were on a ridge with dust on your lips and your legs heavy from climbing. The sky is clear, almost cruelly beautiful, and there they are, massive, pale, and sharp. They don't look like land, they look like the edge of the world. Sunlight hits snow high up and throws it back so hard you have to squint. You feel something tighten in your gut. Not fear exactly, something colder. Respect, maybe, or the sense that you're about to step into a place where all the rules you know stop working. You're still sweating during the day, but you notice the wind more. It comes down from the mountains in sudden gusts, carrying a clean, cold smell that doesn't belong in the lowlands. That smell is like a warning. It's pine and stone and water that hasn't been touched by hands. When it hits your face, you feel it on your teeth. It makes you imagine how cold it is up there, in those high places where sunlight doesn't mean warmth. You watch the elephants when that wind blows. You see them pause, ears shifting. They feel it too. They don't understand it, but their bodies recognize danger in air. The officers push the column forward. There's always urgency, always the sense of being chased by something unseen. Roman pursuit, winter, supply collapse, rebellion. Even when no one says it, you feel it in the pace. You feel it in the way rest becomes shorter, the way mistakes are punished faster. You see men fall out more often now. Twisted ankles, swollen knees, fever that won't break. The sick are left behind with a handful of coins or a slap on the shoulder, as if that will save them. You tell yourself you won't be one of them. Everyone tells themselves that. The approach to the mountains is crowded with tension. Trails narrow, villages become wary. You find fewer friendly markets, more shuttered doors, more faces watching from behind wooden fences. Sometimes you see smoke from distant fires and you don't know if it's cooking or a signal. Sometimes stones clack down from slopes above the road and you look up, hand on your weapon, heart thudding. The land itself feels like it's preparing to fight you. In camp, you hear the animals more at night. Horses snort and stamp, unsettled by smells and the shifting mood of men. Mules bray until someone throws a rock at them. Dogs bark into darkness, hackles raised.
The elephants rumble low in their chests, a sound that vibrates through the ground. You lie on your back, staring into a sky full of stars, and you realize something. You are still in the warm world, still in the world where you can feel your fingers and your lips and the inside of your nose. And that makes you uneasy, because you sense you are about to lose those small things. You sense you are about to learn what cold really is. You think about home, not because you're sentimental, but because home is a measure. Home is what you compare misery against. You try to remember the feel of a normal morning, the smell of bread, the sound of people who aren't armed. The memory is thin. The army has worn it down. War doesn't just kill men, it erases the parts of you that knew how to be comfortable.
By the time you reach the foothills, the air changes fully. Days are cooler, shadows hold cold. When the sun drops, the temperature falls fast, and the chill crawls into your bones in a way that heat never did. You wrap yourself tighter, and it doesn't feel like enough. You wake up stiff. You see men rubbing their hands over embers, faces pinched and quiet. You see breath hanging in the air longer. You feel your lips crack. You taste blood sometimes when you lick them. Still, you keep walking. The mountain tribes appear as rumors first, then as signs. A pile of stones on a path, a carcass hung in a tree, a distant horn call that makes men stop chewing and look at each other with blank faces. You can sense the officers trying to keep order, trying to keep fear contained. Fear is contagious. It turns an army into a mob. It makes men run at the wrong time, and running in the wrong place is another kind of death. You look at the elephants again, the way they move, the way their handlers keep them close. You imagine them on narrow ledges. You imagine their feet on ice. You imagine one of them slipping, panicking, taking men with it as it falls. Your stomach tightens. You push the thought away because you can't afford it yet. You need your strength. You need your mind. The first time you feel true cold wind off the high passes, it hits you like a slap. It comes down hard and sudden, and it carries fine grit, snow dust, or maybe just cold sand from higher rock. It stings your eyes. Men curse and pull hoods up. Torches flicker and die. The smell of smoke goes thin, scattered. The world feels bigger and emptier, like the land is widening to make room for disaster. You stand at the edge of the mountain road and you look up. The path ahead is not a road anymore. It's a cut into rock, a line that disappears into gray heights. You can see patches of snow even though it's not winter yet, not down here. Up there it's different. Up there the seasons don't obey your calendar. Up there the cold waits all year. Your heart beats slow and heavy. You swallow and your throat hurts. You feel the weight of your pack. You feel the weight of your armor. You feel the weight of your own body, suddenly fragile. You have the sharp, simple understanding that the mountain does not care how brave you are. It does not care how many battles you've survived. It does not care what banner you follow. You step forward anyway, because the line moves and the army moves, and you are part of it whether you want to be or not. And somewhere ahead, weeks ahead but already real, you are going to wake up on ice with your cheek burning, your hands useless, the mountain shaking under you, and an elephant screaming into the dark until the sound is cut off. That is where you are going. That is what you have agreed to, even if no one asked you plainly. You take another step into the rising cold, and the Alps wait without moving, patient as a grave. You are moving before dawn, because that's what armies do when they're afraid of what daylight might reveal. The camp breaks down in the dark with hands that know the routine, ropes snapped loose, pegs yanked from frozen dirt, fires stamped out until only dull heat remains. The air is colder than it should be for this early in the season, and it sits in your lungs like damp wool. You pull your cloak tighter, and it barely matters. Your fingers ache inside their wraps. Your breath comes out in short white bursts that vanish fast in the wind. The column forms slowly, like a long animal waking up. You hear it more than you see it at first, the clink of metal, the thud of packs hitting backs, the low mutter of men trying to keep their voices down.
No one wants to waste warmth on talking. You step into place, and the line begins to creep forward, boots scraping rock, sandals sliding on grit. The ground rises in small, cruel angles that don't look like much until you've climbed them for an hour and your calves start to burn. The mountains in front of you are no longer distant. They are close enough to feel, close enough to block pieces of the sky. In the low light, they look black and jagged, like broken teeth. Snow sits on the upper slopes in dirty streaks, packed into creases where the sun never reaches. You stare at it too long and your eyes water from the cold wind. You blink hard and keep walking. The road has stopped being a road. It's a track squeezed between rock faces and drops that disappear into shadow. In places, the path is wide enough for two men to pass. In others, you have to turn your shoulders sideways and shuffle past your own comrades, breathing in the stink of them, sweat trapped under wool, breath that smells of sour grain, old smoke clinging to hair. You smell animals too, horse sweat, sharp and acidic, mule piss, the heavy wet hide smell of elephants drifting in slow waves from further up the line. When the wind shifts, the elephant smell is so thick it coats your tongue. You walk and you listen for the sounds you're trying not to hear. Rocks shifting, boots slipping, a muffled curse followed by the scrape of someone catching themselves just in time. Every time you hear it, your stomach tightens. You keep your eyes on the ground because looking out over the edge doesn't help you walk, it just shows you what failure looks like. The cold doesn't arrive like a switch, it creeps. At first it's your ears, then it's your fingertips, then it's your knees when you stop for a moment and the wind pushes through your cloth like it isn't there. You keep moving because stopping is when you notice how bad it is. Your sweat turns dangerous. It cools on your skin and makes you shiver. Shivering wastes energy. Energy is food you don't have. Rations are already thinner than they should be. You can feel it in the mood of the men. You can feel it in yourself, in the way your thoughts keep drifting toward the same blunt problems. When is the next meal? How much water is left? How far to the next place you can rest without being attacked? Hunger isn't dramatic yet, but it's there like a low fever. Your stomach doesn't growl, it clenches. It makes you irritable. It makes you watch other men's packs with a quiet suspicion you hate yourself for.
The first time the mountain people show themselves, it's not a battle, it's a reminder. You notice them as shapes on a ridgeline above the trail, small, dark against pale stone. They don't rush you, they don't shout. They just stand there and watch, unmoving, as your long column threads through their land. You feel their eyes on you like weight. The men near you glance upward and then quickly look away, pretending they don't care. Pretending that being observed by people who know this terrain doesn't matter. But it matters. You all feel it. It turns the path narrower. It turns the air colder. The officers push the pace anyway. They can't afford hesitation. If the column stalls, you become a target pinned to a cliff. So you march. You climb. You breathe the thin air and you feel it not filling your lungs the way it should. You cough sometimes, and the cough is dry and sharp. As the sun climbs, it doesn't warm you. It just lights up the danger. The shadows pull back and reveal what you've been walking beside. Sheer drops, ravines choked with rock, old snow in the folds of the mountain like dead skin. You see the trail ahead narrow into a ledge that looks like it was carved by accident. You watch men at the front of the line inch across it, hands touching rock, bodies leaning inward. You watch pack animals balk and then lurch forward when struck or shouted at, hooves skittering on stone. You realize there isn't room for error, not for anyone, not for the strongest soldier, not for the most experienced handler, not for the biggest animal in the world. You start noticing the elephants more, because the elephants are the truth of this march. They are the part no one can pretend is normal. When one of them passes near you, the ground trembles faintly with each step. You smell it before you see it. Wet hide, old grass, dung. Its sides rise and fall with heavy breaths that plume in the cold air.
The animal's skin is mottled and cracked from travel. Frost gathers in the wrinkles around its eyes and trunk. Its handler stays close, small beside it, touching it often, hand on leg, hand on shoulder, constant reassurance. You can tell the handler is scared, even if he keeps his face flat. The elephant is calm for now, but calm is not the same as safe. An elephant that panics on a ledge doesn't just die, it takes the path with it. You walk past, and you don't look up at the animal's face for too long because there's something in its eye that unsettles you. It looks tired, not tired like a man after a hard march, tired like something that has been forced past its own limits and knows it. You wonder, briefly, what it feels like for it to breathe this thin air, to feel this cold, to put its weight on stone that wasn't meant to hold it. You don't dwell on it. Compassion is expensive out here. By late afternoon, the wind sharpens. It comes down the passes in sudden bursts, hard enough to shove at your shoulders. Dust and grit sting your cheeks. You squint and keep your head low. Your lips split again. You taste blood. It mixes with salt from sweat and makes your mouth taste like rust. You reach a place that should have been a rest point, flat ground, some shelter from rock walls, but it's already wrong. There are signs that someone has been here before you and not to welcome you. Stones stacked in odd ways, animal bones too clean, a smell that isn't just wilderness, smoke that isn't from your fires.
The officers move fast, scanning, shifting men into tighter formation. You feel the line compress, the chatter dies. Even the animals seem quieter, as if they sense it too. The mountain people are close. You keep walking because you are ordered to, because the column cannot stop here, not in a place like this. And then it happens. It doesn't begin with a charge. It begins with a crack. A stone the size of a head drops from above and strikes the path a few paces ahead of you. It bounces once, twice, then disappears over the edge. The sound of it hitting rock is sharp and final. Men flinch. Someone looks up. Another stone falls, bigger than another. The air fills with the sound of rock striking rock, a violent clattering that echoes off the cliffs and makes it hard to tell where the danger is coming from. You duck instinctively, shoulders hunched, shield half raised, your heart hammers. You try to press closer to the rock wall, but there's nowhere to go. The path is too narrow. Men behind you shove forward because they can't stop either. The line becomes a tight knot of bodies. A mule brays and tries to turn around, but there's no space, so it bucks in place, hooves striking stone, eyes rolling white. Above, you see them now, mountain fighters moving along the ridges, quick and sure-footed, throwing rocks down with both hands, not wasting arrows, not wasting effort. They don't need to fight you face to face. The mountain does it for them. A man to your left catches a smaller stone on the shoulder. You hear the impact, and then his breath leave him in a wet burst. He drops to his knees, trying to keep balance, and that's when the next shove of the crowd pushes him sideways. You reach out without thinking, grabbing at his cloak, but your fingers slide on fabric and sweat. He tips, slow at first, then faster, and then he's gone over the edge. He doesn't scream. The drop steals sound. You stand there with your hand still out like an idiot, staring at the empty space where a person was. The realization hits you hard. Death here is quiet. It happens without drama. It happens because of one bad step, one shove, one stone, one panic. The officers try to keep the line moving. You feel it in the surge forward. They want to get out of the kill zone, out from under the rocks, but moving faster on this path is like trying to run on glass. Men trip, packs snag, a horse slips, and its hind legs slide toward the edge. It scrabbles, hooves sparking on stone. A soldier grabs its reins and gets yanked forward, nearly pulled off with it. Two other men throw their weight back, and together they drag the horse upright by brute force.
The horse stands shaking, nostrils flaring, foam flecking its mouth. You see the terror in its eyes, and you recognize it, because it matches your own. Then you hear something worse than falling stone, the deep, sudden bellow of an elephant.
It's ahead of you in the column. You can't see it clearly, only the movement of bodies and the sway of a massive shape. The bellow is panic, not anger. It rolls through the cliff walls and comes back at you, doubled. Men shout, trying to keep order, but their voices are thin and lost in the noise. The elephant's handlers are trying to calm it, but calm is a fragile thing. Another stone hits near the animal, close enough that you feel it in your feet. The elephant jerks sideways. You imagine what that sideways step means. You imagine the ledge giving way under that weight. You imagine the rope line snapping. You imagine the chain of bodies tied together being dragged toward open air. The line lurches. You get shoved forward hard enough that your knee smashes rock. Pain flares bright. Your hands shoot out, palms scraping stone. The scrape takes skin. You feel warmth on your palm, even in the cold. Blood. Then the air cools it instantly. You grunt and push yourself upright because you have to. Behind you, someone is crying out, not in a brave way, just raw. Ahead of you, men are pressed tight, shoulder to shoulder, trying to move without falling, trying to keep the animals from losing control. The attack lasts minutes, maybe longer. Time breaks apart when you're pinned to a cliff watching stones fall. You can't measure it. You only know that when it ends, it doesn't end cleanly. It fades. The rocks stop coming. The shapes on the ridge vanish. The echo dies. And what remains is the mess. Men injured, animals shaking, the trail littered with shattered stone and dropped gear, and gaps in the line where people used to be. You keep walking anyway, because if you stop and count the missing, you'll start thinking about the fact that you could have been one of them. You keep walking because the officers bark orders and threaten punishment, because discipline is the only thing holding this moving disaster together. You keep walking because the path is still there under your feet, and as long as it's there, you can pretend you have control. By evening, you reach a narrow shelf where the column can finally compress into a rough camp. Fires are hard to build because the wind steals heat, but men try. Smoke clings low, trapped against rock, making your eyes sting. The smell of burnt wood mixes with the stink of fear and animal waste. You sit with your back to stone and you feel your body shake. Not from cold alone, but from the aftershock of nearly dying without even fighting. You check your hands. The scraped palm is already stiffening as the blood dries. You flex your fingers and pain shoots up your forearm. You look at your knee and see swelling under the cloth. You will walk on it tomorrow anyway. You will walk on it until it stops working, or you do. Around you, men eat quietly. The rations are smaller than yesterday. You tear at a piece of dried meat and it feels like chewing leather. You swallow and it sits heavy in your stomach. Not enough to satisfy, just enough to remind you what hunger feels like. Someone nearby vomits from exhaustion and bad food. The smell hits you and you gag, but you keep your mouth closed, because wasting food, even by vomiting, feels like a sin out here. Night comes early in the mountains. The sky turns hard and black. The temperature drops fast. You pull your cloak around you and it's still not enough. The cold crawls into your bones and stays there. You listen to the sounds of the camp settling, low murmurs, coughing, the occasional sharp cry from someone whose injury finally catches up with them. You hear animals shifting, snorting, the elephants rumbling softly, a low vibration like distant thunder. You close your eyes, and the rockfall replays behind your eyelids, the gap in the line where the man vanished, the quiet absence of a scream, the feeling of being shoved toward open air. Your heart pounds again as if it's happening now. You try to sleep, because tomorrow is another climb, another narrow trail, another chance for the mountain to kill you without effort. You try to sleep, but the cold won't let you sink fully under. It keeps you half awake, aware of your own breath, aware of your own fragility. And as you lie there, you understand something that settles in your gut like lead. The disaster has already started. The Alps have already begun taking pieces of you.
Not just men lost over an edge, not just animals injured, not just supplies scattered on rock. They are taking your certainty. They are taking your belief that you can endure anything if you're disciplined enough. You are still alive at the end of this day, but you feel the shape of what's coming. You feel it in the wind. You feel it in the thin air. You feel it in the way the mountain people didn't even need to fight you to make you bleed. You pull your cloak tighter, press your face into your arm, and try to sleep while the mountains loom above you like a closed fist. You wake up before the light reaches the path, because the cold won't let you sleep any longer. It has settled into you during the night, sunk deep into your joints, into the spaces between bones. When you try to move, your body resists, stiff and uncooperative, like it belongs to someone older. You curl your fingers and feel pain flare where skin split yesterday. The scrape on your palm has hardened into something tight and brittle. You tear it open again just by clenching your hand. The ground beneath you is stone, unforgiving and wet with frost. Your breath clouds thick and slow in front of your face. You pull your cloak closer and feel how thin it really is. It smells of smoke and sweat and old fear. It smells like you now. Around you, the camp stirs without enthusiasm. Men rise slowly, groaning, coughing, rubbing numb hands together. Fires have burned low, starved of wood, and what heat they gave is already gone. Someone kicks embers back to life, and a thin ribbon of smoke curls upward before the wind tears it apart. You smell burnt resin and damp bark. It does nothing to warm you. The animals are worse this morning. Horses stand with heads low, ribs too visible. Their breath comes fast, nostrils crusted with frost. Mules bray weakly, their voices echoing wrong against the rock walls. And then there are the elephants.
You hear them before you see them. A deep, rolling sound rises from the chest, not loud, not angry, just heavy. It vibrates through the ground and up into your legs. When you turn, you see them standing close together on a wider patch of trail, handlers pressed tight to their sides. Their hides are dusted with frost, settled into every wrinkle and fold. Their ears hang stiff instead of flapping. Their trunks move slower than they should. They look wrong here. In the lowland camps, the elephants felt unstoppable, massive, warm, confident. Here, on stone and ice, they look like prisoners. Their feet are wrapped in layers of leather and straw, crude attempts to protect skin never meant for this surface. Even so, you can see cracks forming along the edges of their pads. Each step costs them something. The handlers know it. You can see it in the way they touch the animals constantly, murmuring nonsense sounds, patting, guiding, begging without words. They are afraid in a specific way, afraid of what happens if an elephant decides it has had enough. The column forms again, slower than yesterday. No one rushes now. Everyone has learned how little space there is for mistakes. You take your place and feel the line tighten, shoulder brushing shoulder. Packs creak, weapons clink softly. Someone ahead of you stumbles and swears, and the sound travels down the line like a warning. The path climbs immediately. There's no gentle start, no easing into it. Stone rises under your feet in sharp angles, slick with frost where the sun hasn't touched yet. You lean forward, hands out slightly for balance, muscles already burning. Your breath comes hard and loud in your ears. The air is thinner here. Each inhale feels like it gives you less than it should. As you climb, the world narrows. The sky is a pale strip above you. Rock walls close in on one side. Open air waits on the other. You don't look out unless you have to. When you do, your stomach drops hard. The ground below is already far away, and you're only just beginning. The first elephant passes you an hour into the climb. It's close enough that you can reach out and touch its leg if you wanted to, though you don't. You watch its feet carefully. Each step is deliberate,
placed with care, weight shifting slowly. The leather wrappings around its feet are darkened with moisture and blood. The smell hits you next, iron and wet hide and dung. The animal exhales, and steam pours from its trunk in thick bursts. You realize then how quiet everyone has become. Men who would normally joke or complain walk in silence now, eyes flicking from the path to the elephants and back again. Everyone understands, even if no one says it. If the elephants fail, the march fails. And if the march fails, here, on this path, failure means bodies broken on rock far below. The trail narrows again ahead, and the officers slow the line to manage it. This section tilts inward toward the rock wall, forcing you to lean uncomfortably as you walk. Your boots slip on grit and ice. You steady yourself with one hand against stone so cold it bites through cloth and skin instantly. You pull your hand back and shake it, cursing under your breath. Ahead, an elephant hesitates. You feel it ripple through the line before you see it. The handlers stop. Men behind them stop. The column compresses, and suddenly there is nowhere to move. You're pressed close to the man in front of you, close enough to smell his breath, stale grain and fear. You hear the elephant breathe, heavy and uneven. The animal's foot hovers over the stone, uncertain. The ledge is narrow, the drop immediate. Its ears twitch, its trunk curls inward, then extends again, touching the rock as if testing it. The handler pulls gently on the rope, urging it forward. You see the tension in the handler's shoulders, the way his jaw is set too tight. The elephant shifts its weight. For a moment, nothing happens. Then its foot slips. It's not a full slide, just a short, violent skid. Stone grinds against leather. The elephant's body lurches sideways, and the sound it makes is pure panic, deep, raw, ripping out of its chest. The handler's yanked forward, nearly dragged off his feet. Men shout. Someone behind you screams. The elephant regains footing just in time. It plants its other feet wide, muscles straining visibly under thick skin. The ledge holds. The animal stands there shaking, breath roaring in and out, eyes wide and white-rimmed. The line freezes. You feel your heart pounding so hard it hurts. Your mouth is dry. Your legs tremble with the effort of staying balanced on the slanted path. You imagine what would have happened if the elephant had gone over. You imagine the handlers tied to it, the men behind it bound by rope, the weight pulling everything down in a chain. You imagine yourself dragged screaming into open air without ever slipping on your own. Eventually, slowly, the handlers calm the elephant enough to move again. They don't force it. They coax it, inch by inch, step by step. When it passes the narrowest point, a sound ripples through the men. Not relief exactly, but something close. You exhale without realizing you'd been holding your breath. The climb continues, and the cold sharpens as the sun rises higher. The sunlight doesn't warm, it reflects. Snow glare stabs at your eyes, and you squint until your head aches. Your lips split again. Your nose runs constantly, then goes numb. You wipe it on your sleeve and don't care how it looks. By midday, hunger starts to gnaw in earnest. Your stomach cramps, tight and hollow. You think about food with a focus that feels dangerous. You think about the way fat tastes, the way warm bread feels in your hands. You hate the thoughts, but they come anyway. The rations handed out during a brief stop are pitiful. A small piece of dried grain cake, hard enough to crack teeth if you're careless. You chew slowly, trying to trick your body into thinking it's getting more than it is.
The elephants eat too, or try to. Bundles of fodder are dragged forward and handed up to the handlers. The animals tear at it eagerly, but you can tell it's not enough. Their movements are slower now, their breathing heavier. One of them coughs, a deep, wet sound that makes several men glance at each other with unease. As the afternoon wears on, the path grows worse. Snow appears more frequently, packed hard into dips and corners. Your feet slide unpredictably. You learn to test each step before committing your weight. It slows you down, but speed is not your friend here. Then the ground under your left foot gives way just enough to scare you. It's nothing dramatic, just a sudden shift, a crunch as ice breaks. But your foot slips outward, toward the edge. Your body tilts. For a heartbeat, you are weightless. You flail and grab at the rock wall, nails scraping stone. Pain flares as skin tears again. Someone behind you shoves forward unintentionally, trying to keep their own balance, and the shove nearly finishes the job. You manage to twist, plant your other foot, and slam your shoulder into the rock wall. It knocks the breath out of you in a harsh grunt, but you stay on the path. You stand there, shaking, heart racing, staring at nothing. No one stops. No one helps. They can't. You are alive. That is enough. You force your legs to move again. The mountain doesn't attack you outright today. It doesn't need to. It just wears you down. It steals warmth, energy, certainty. It makes every action cost more than it should. You feel it in your thighs, burning and weak. You feel it in your back, hunched from hours of leaning uphill. You feel it in your head, where thoughts start to blur together. Late in the day, clouds roll in fast and low. They swallow the upper slopes first, then sink toward you. The light dulls. The air thickens with moisture. Snow begins to fall, not gently, not beautifully, but in sharp, dry flakes that sting your face. The wind picks up, funneling through the pass in sudden, violent gusts that knock you sideways. Visibility drops. The world shrinks to a few paces ahead of you. Men disappear into white haze, reappearing as ghostly shapes. The elephants loom larger in this light, dark masses moving through blowing snow. Their outlines blur, their sounds feel closer, louder. Officers shout orders, trying to keep the line tight. Ropes are checked again, retied, made shorter. You feel the tug at your waist, and you hate it and love it at the same time. The rope is safety. The rope is also a promise that if one of you goes, others might follow. You hear another elephant scream somewhere ahead, not as sharp as before, but filled with pain. You don't know what happened. You don't see it. That's worse. Not knowing lets your imagination work unchecked. By the time the column reaches a place narrow enough to call camp, everyone is exhausted beyond argument. The snow continues to fall, thin but relentless. Fires are nearly impossible to start. Wood is scarce and wet. When flames do catch, they burn low and fast. Smoke hugs the ground, stinging eyes and throats. You sit with your back to a rock face and pull your knees up to your chest. Your hands shake uncontrollably now. The cold has worked its way deep inside you. Your feet ache in a dull, constant way that worries you. You pull your sandals off briefly to check them and regret it immediately. Your toes are pale and numb. You rub them hard until pain flares, grateful for it. Nearby, an elephant is being settled for the night. Handlers pile straw and cloth around its feet, trying to insulate them from stone and ice. One of the animals refuses to lie down, swaying instead, as if afraid that once it rests, it won't be able to stand again. The handlers stay with it, small figures beside an enormous, suffering body. You eat your ration without tasting it. You drink a few mouthfuls of water that feels like ice going down your throat. You listen to the wind howl through the pass, a sound like something alive and angry. When you finally close your eyes, you don't sleep properly. You drift in and out, jolted awake by every sound, the crack of shifting stone, the sudden bellow of an elephant, the sharp cry of a man waking from a nightmare. Each time your heart leaps, convinced the ledge beneath you is giving way. Somewhere in the dark, you understand this much with brutal clarity. The elephants are suffering, and so are you. But they don't understand why this is happening to them. You do. And that knowledge doesn't make it easier. It makes it heavier. You are forcing living things into a place that does not want them. And the mountain is patient. Tomorrow it will ask for more. You wake to screaming. It's not human at first, not the kind you recognize right away. It's deeper,
torn out of something big and terrified, echoing off stones so hard it sounds like it's coming from everywhere at once. Your eyes snap open, and the cold hits you like a blow. Snow has drifted against your face during the night, thin and dry, and your eyelashes are crusted together. You suck in air and cough immediately. It burns your chest. The screaming stops as abruptly as it started. For a moment, there's only wind rushing through the pass and violent bursts, carrying snow and grit that sting exposed skin. Then human sounds bleed back in, men shouting orders, men shouting names, men shouting in pure panic. Metal clatters, something heavy scrapes rock. The ground trembles faintly under you, just enough to be felt through your spine.
You sit up too fast and the world tilts. You steady yourself with one hand on the stone behind you. It's so cold it feels wet, even though it's dry. Your fingers protest, stiff and aching. You drag yourself to your feet and pull your cloak tighter, though it barely does anything now. The cold has learned how to get inside it. The camp is chaos. Men are scrambling out of sleep, tripping over packs, grabbing weapons they won't use. Snow blows sideways through the narrow shelf where you camped, erasing footprints as fast as they're made. Visibility is poor. Gray light, low cloud, shapes moving without edges. You see an elephant's outline looming through the snow, massive and unsteady, handlers clustered around its legs like children clinging to a parent. Another scream tears out of it, raw, broken, nothing controlled about it. You don't need to be told what's happening. You can feel it in the way the ground vibrates unevenly, in the way men keep glancing toward the edge of the path instead of the sky. Something has gone wrong ahead. Something has slipped. Orders come down the line in fragments. The wind steals half the words. You catch pieces, hold position, tighten ropes, don't move unless told. Men obey because disobedience here isn't courage, it's suicide. You feel the rope at your waist pulled tighter as someone shortens it, knots scraped rough and quick. You hate the feeling of it. You need it. You edge closer to the rock wall, pressing your shoulder into it for stability. Snow crunches under your feet, thin crust over ice. Your breath comes hard and loud. You try to slow it because panic wastes oxygen, and oxygen is already scarce. Ahead of you, the path narrows into a choke point you remember from yesterday, a slanted ledge with nothing but open air beyond it. You squint through the blowing snow and finally see what the screaming came from. An elephant has fallen. Not all the way. Not yet. It's wedged awkwardly against the edge of the path, its massive body tilted at a wrong angle, back legs scrabbling uselessly against stone. One foot has slipped off the ledge and hangs in nothing. Its trunk lashes wildly, striking rock, striking air. Its eye is wide and white, rolling, fixed on something only it can see. Blood darkens the leather wrappings around its feet where skin has torn. Handlers cling to ropes tied around its body, their boots skidding, faces stretched tight with terror. They are shouting, but you can't hear the words. You don't need them. They are begging the animal to do something its body may no longer be capable of doing. Men behind them are braced, leaning backward with everything they have, using their weight to keep the elephant from sliding further. You can see the strain in their posture, in the way their legs shake. You can see it in the ropes, fibers stretched taut, humming faintly under the load. The elephant screams again, louder, and the sound punches through you. It's pain and fear and confusion all at once. It makes your teeth ache. It makes your stomach twist.
Then the mountain answers. There's a sharp crack from above, like a whip snapping. You look up just in time to see a slab of snow break loose from higher up the slope. It starts small, then gathers more as it slides, accelerating, dragging rock and ice with it. It's not a full avalanche, not the kind you imagine swallowing entire valleys, but it doesn't need to be. It hits the ledge ahead like a hammer. Men are knocked flat. The elephant lurches violently as snow and stone slam into its side. Ropes jerk. One snaps with a sound like a gunshot. The men holding it stumble forward, suddenly off balance. You feel the rope at your waist go taut, then jerk as the line reacts instinctively, everyone pulling back at once. The force yanks you off your feet. You slam into the rock wall shoulder first, pain flaring white. Your head snaps sideways, and for a heartbeat, the world goes dark. When your vision clears, the elephant is moving. It slides. Slow at first, agonizingly slow, its enormous body shifting inch by inch toward the edge. Its back legs find nothing to push against. Its front legs dig uselessly into stone. The handlers are screaming now, faces contorted, some of them crying openly. Men behind them strain and shout and slip. You dig your heels in without being told. Your calves scream, your back burns, the rope bites into your waist. You lean backward, pulling with everything you have, even though you know, some part of you knows, it's not enough. The elephant lets out one last sound, lower than the others, almost resigned. Then the ledge gives way. It doesn't collapse all at once. A chunk of rock breaks free under the elephant's weight. The sound is deep and final. The animal's body tips past the point of recovery, and suddenly there is nothing holding it anymore. It falls. The handlers tied closest to it are yanked forward instantly. One of them manages to cut himself free in time, blade flashing, rope snapping loose. Another isn't fast enough. He disappears with the elephant, dragged over the edge without a scream, just a brief, sharp cry cut short by distance. The elephant's body vanishes into cloud and snow. The sound of it hitting far below comes seconds later, a dull, monstrous impact that echoes up the ravine and then fades. Silence follows. Not complete silence. Wind still howls, men still breathe and sob, but something essential has gone quiet.
Everyone stands frozen. Your legs are shaking so badly you're not sure you're still standing on your own. Your throat feels tight, like something is stuck in it. You stare at the empty space where the elephant was, at the broken ledge, at the frayed ends of rope snapping in the wind. That animal was never supposed to be here, and now it's dead because you brought it. There is no time to mourn. The officers know it, and they act fast. Orders are shouted. The line must move. The mountain people will have seen this. The noise will have carried. Stopping here is an invitation to die. Men are forced forward, past the broken edge, past the blood smeared on stone, past the place where a massive living thing fell into nothing. You are shoved along with them. Your feet feel numb. You don't trust them anymore. As you pass the spot, you look down without meaning to. You see nothing but cloud. The path beyond is worse. Snow has drifted thickly now, hiding ice beneath it. Every step is a gamble. You test the ground with your foot before committing weight, but sometimes the test lies. Sometimes the snow holds until it doesn't. You hear another sound from above, shouts, high-pitched and sharp. The mountain people have returned. Stones start falling again, not in a wild barrage like before, but targeted, deliberate. They wait for narrow sections, for places where the path forces you close together. A rock smashes into a pack ahead of you, tearing it open. Dried grain spills out and scatters across the snow, immediately trampled, wasted. The man carrying it cries out in despair more than pain. Another stone strikes a soldier square in the back of the head. He drops without a sound, body going limp. The men around him have no room to stop. They step over him. Someone trips on his leg and nearly goes over the edge of themselves. You keep your head down and move. The elephants that remain are frantic now. They can smell blood. They can feel the instability of the ground. One of them refuses to advance, planting its feet and shaking its head violently. The handlers beat it, shout, plead, nothing works. Behind it, the column backs up dangerously. Men press closer together. The path cannot hold this many bodies in one place. Another stone hits nearby. The elephant trumpets in terror and surges forward suddenly, knocking handlers aside. It nearly takes a man with it over the edge before someone manages to shove him clear. The mountain people retreat again once the damage is done. They don't need to finish you. They only need to weaken you, scatter you, make the mountain do the rest.
By the time you reach a place barely wide enough to pause, you are drenched in sweat under your cloak despite the cold. The sweat turns icy almost immediately. Your teeth chatter uncontrollably. Your hands won't stop shaking. You feel hollowed out. Men are injured everywhere you look. Cracked ribs, broken fingers, gashes from flying stone, frost-nipped skin already turning pale and waxy. There is no proper treatment. Wounds are wrapped quickly, clumsily, with whatever cloth is available. The priority is movement, not healing. You eat nothing. There is no break long enough to justify it. Hunger sits sharp and hot in your gut. You feel lightheaded when you stand. Your vision tunnels briefly, then clears. As the day drags on, the weather worsens. Snow thickens, flakes driven hard by wind. The sky presses low, gray and heavy. You lose all sense of direction beyond forward and down. The Alps close in around you like a trap. Another man falls later that day, not from an attack, not from an elephant, but from exhaustion. His legs simply give out. He collapses on the path, chest heaving, eyes unfocused. Two men try to lift him. He screams when they touch him, pain flashing through whatever has broken inside. The officers hesitate for a heartbeat, then order them to leave him. You watch as the man is dragged to the inside of the path and propped against rock. Someone gives him a skin of water. Someone else presses a scrap of bread into his hand. Then the line moves on. You don't look back. By nightfall, you are no longer thinking in full thoughts. Your world has shrunk to sensations. Cold, pain, breath, step. Cold, pain, breath, step. Your body feels like a machine that has been run without rest for too long, parts grinding, joints screaming. The camp that night is barely a camp at all, a narrow shelf, bodies packed together for warmth, fires struggling to stay alive. The wind screams through the pass like it's angry you're still here. Snow piles up against your legs as you sit, melting slightly from body heat, then refreezing. You don't remember eating, but your ration is gone. You don't remember drinking, but your mouth is still dry. You pull your cloak over your head and curl inward, trying to preserve what little heat you have left. Nearby, one of the remaining elephants collapses to its knees. It doesn't scream this time. It just lowers itself heavily, breath wheezing, sides heaving. The handlers crowd around it, trying to get it back up. It won't move. Eventually, they stop trying. You lie there listening to the wind and the labored breathing of animals and men. You think about the elephant that fell. You think about the handler dragged with it. You think about how quickly something massive can vanish when the ground decides it's done holding you.
No one says what everyone knows. It may not get up again. Orders come late and weak, as if even the officers are tired of shouting. The column forms with less urgency than before, because urgency requires fuel. You step into line, and your legs protest immediately. Your knee from yesterday feels swollen and unstable. You test it with a careful step and feel pain flare, then dull slightly. You'll walk on it anyway. There is no alternative. The climb resumes. The wind is steady now, not gusting, just constant. It strips heat from you without effort. Snow crunches underfoot, hiding ice beneath. You move slower than yesterday, and so does everyone else. The line stretches thin in places, bunches dangerously in others. You're aware of the rope at your waist again, its weight constant, its promise grim. After an hour, your stomach starts to cramp harder. You press your lips together and breathe through it. You tell yourself you'll eat at the next halt. You tell yourself there will be a halt. The path curves along a steep face where the sun never reaches. The stone here is dark and slick. Snow has compacted into a hard, glassy surface. You test each step carefully, placing your foot flat, keeping your center low. It's exhausting. Every movement costs more energy than it should. You feel lightheaded. Your vision narrows briefly, edges dimming.
You stop and lean into the rock wall, pretending to adjust your pack. You breathe slowly, counting, waiting for the world to steady. Behind you, a man bumps into your back. Not hard, just enough to remind you that stopping too long is dangerous. You straighten and move again. The first ration of the day comes late. It's barely a ration at all. A small piece of dried grain mash, hard as stone, handed down the line by men whose faces show nothing but resignation. You take yours and stare at it for a moment, surprised by the anger that flares in you. This tiny thing is supposed to carry you through hours of climbing in the cold? You eat it anyway. You chew slowly, forcing saliva that isn't there. The taste is bland, almost non-existent. It doesn't fill you. It doesn't even comfort you. It just disappears into the emptiness, swallowed without effect. When it's gone, your hunger feels sharper, as if eating has reminded your body what it's missing. The elephants eat too, what little there is for them. Bundles of fodder are split smaller than they should be. The animals pull at it desperately, trunks working fast, but it's not enough. You watch one of them drop a bundle and hesitate before picking it up again, as if even that small movement feels like too much effort. As the day drags on, hunger starts to change you. Your thoughts narrow. You stop thinking about Rome. You stop thinking about victory. You stop thinking about anything beyond the next step and the next bite of food that isn't coming. Sounds irritate you more. The wind feels louder. The scrape of boots on stone feels personal. When someone stumbles ahead of you and slows the line, a flash of anger hits you so hard it surprises you. You clamp down on it immediately. Anger wastes energy. Anger gets people killed.
Still, it's there. You notice it in others too. Men snap at each other over nothing. A hand lingers too long near another man's ration pouch. Someone laughs suddenly, high and wrong, then stops just as abruptly. The discipline that held you together in the lowlands is thinning, worn down by cold and hunger. The mountain doesn't need to attack today. It just lets you weaken. By midday, the path becomes a series of short climbs and descents, each one punishing. Your legs feel rubbery. Your breath comes in shallow gasps. The thin air makes your chest feel tight, like something is pressing down on it from the inside. You start seeing things that aren't there. At first it's small, a shape in the snow that looks like a body until you get closer and see it's just rock. A dark patch that looks like spilled food until it resolves into shadow. You blink hard and tell yourself it's just exhaustion. Then it gets worse. You smell bread. It's sudden and unmistakable. Warm grain, crusted edges, something baked properly, not dried and rationed. Your mouth floods with saliva so fast it hurts. Your stomach clenches violently. You turn your head, scanning the line, convinced for a heartbeat that someone is cooking, that a supply wagon has appeared somehow. There is nothing. The smell fades as quickly as it came, leaving behind a sharp ache in your gut and a wave of dizziness. You swallow hard and focus on your feet. You don't tell anyone. You don't want to hear what they might admit to smelling. Later, you hear laughter behind you, soft at first, then louder. You glance back and see a man grinning as he walks, eyes unfocused. He's muttering something under his breath, words you can't make out. He stumbles and catches himself, then laughs again. A few steps later, he trips properly and goes down hard, face first into snow and stone. The laughter stops. Men help him up roughly, shaking him, shouting. His eyes don't seem to track properly. Blood runs from his nose. He's still smiling faintly, like he's somewhere else. He's pushed to the inside of the path and told to sit. The line moves on. You don't look back. The cold deepens in the afternoon. The sun disappears behind cloud again, and the temperature drops immediately. Your fingers feel clumsy. You struggle to grip your spear properly. You switch hands and feel the same numb weakness there too. Your feet are worse. Each step sends a dull, distant throb up your legs. You can't tell if the pain is from cold, injury, or something more serious. When you stomp your foot harder to test it, you feel almost nothing. Panic flickers. You stamp again, harder. Pain blooms, sharp and blessed. You breathe out slowly, relieved. Pain means alive. The elephants are moving slower now. One stumbles, knees buckling briefly, then catches itself. The handlers shout and press close, urging it forward. The animal's sides heave. Its breath sounds wet, labored. You realize with a sinking feeling that hunger is hitting them too, and hunger in something that large is catastrophic. Late in the day, the column stops unexpectedly. At first, you're grateful. Your legs feel like they might fold if you take another step. Then you realize why you've stopped. Ahead, the path has collapsed. Not completely, but enough to block safe passage. A section of ledge has given way, leaving a jagged gap with nothing but open air beneath it. Snow pours into it steadily, vanishing without sound. Men cluster at the edge, peering down, arguing. The wind steals their words. You feel fear tighten in your chest, not the sudden panic of falling stone, but a slow dread. Stopping here is dangerous. Waiting here means cold, hunger, exposure. But moving through that gap looks worse. While officers argue, you stand still, and standing still lets the cold attack properly. It creeps into muscles already exhausted. Your teeth chatter uncontrollably. You hug yourself, embarrassed by the weakness but unable to stop it. Someone hands out another ration while you wait. This one is even smaller. You stare at it, then at your hands. They shake as you bring it to your mouth. You eat it in 2 bites and feel nothing but frustration. Your stomach cramps harder, angry at the insult. That's when the thoughts turn dark. You start counting in your head, not days, bodies. You think about the men already gone, the one shoved off the ledge, the one crushed by stone, the handler dragged with the elephant. You think about how many remain. You think about how many mouths there are to feed and how little food there is. The thought is ugly, and you try to crush it immediately, but it lingers. Fewer men would mean more food. You hate yourself for thinking it. You also can't stop. Eventually, a solution is found. Planks are dragged forward. Ropes are anchored. Men are ordered across one at a time. Packs passed hand to hand. It's slow and terrifying. You wait your turn, watching others cross, watching boards creak and flex under weight. When it's your turn, your mouth is so dry it hurts. You step onto the plank and feel it dip slightly. You freeze, then force yourself forward. You keep your eyes on the rock wall, not the void below. You move carefully, evenly, every muscle tense.
You make it across. On the other side, your legs nearly give out. You grab the rock and stand there breathing hard, head down until the world steadies. Behind you, the crossing continues. One man slips and is caught by the rope, left dangling briefly over nothing, screaming, before being hauled back up. When he reaches solid ground, he sobs openly. No one comforts him. By the time the last man crosses, the light is fading. The delay has cost you hours, and now there's nowhere good to camp. The officers push you on anyway, desperate to find anything resembling shelter. You walk in near darkness, snow crunching underfoot, wind howling. Your body feels empty, not tired, empty, like something essential has been burned away. When you finally stop, it's on a narrow shelf barely wide enough for the line to compress. There's no room to lie down properly. Fires are impossible. You sit with your knees drawn up and press against the man beside you for warmth without asking. He doesn't object. He needs it too. Your stomach twists violently again, and this time nausea rises with it. You retch, dry and painful, nothing coming up. Your body has nothing left to give. Your throat burns. Tears leak from your eyes, partly from the effort, partly from something else you don't want to name. Nearby, an elephant collapses fully this time. It goes down hard, the sound of its body hitting stone dull and final. The handlers rush to it, shouting, tugging. The animal doesn't respond. Its chest barely moves. Someone says something you don't catch.
Someone else makes a slicing motion across his throat. You understand. The animal is too weak to continue, too large to save, too much of a liability to protect. You don't see what happens next. You don't want to. You turn your face into your cloak and stare at darkness. Sleep comes in thin, miserable fragments. When you dream, you are eating. Real food, warm food. You wake with your jaw clenched, teeth aching, saliva in your mouth that turns to disappointment when you remember where you are. Your body shakes through the night, part cold, part hunger. You pull your cloak tighter and feel how little it does now. The mountain has stripped you down to the basics: breath, heat, movement. As you lie there, starving and half delirious, one truth settles in with brutal clarity. Hunger is not just weakness. Hunger is a weapon. It makes you slower. It makes you careless. It makes you cruel. It makes you imagine survival at the expense of others, even when you don't want to. The Alps don't need to kill you quickly. They can starve you into something unrecognizable and let you destroy yourselves. You close your eyes and listen to the wind tear at the pass, and you wonder, not for the first time and not for the last, how much of you will still be left by the time this crossing ends.
You wake because the pain has changed. It's no longer the deep ache in your legs or the hollow twisting in your stomach. This is sharper, more specific. It feels like your feet are on fire, not warm, burning. You jolt awake with a gasp, heart racing, and immediately the cold slams back in, stealing your breath. Your body is shaking hard now, teeth clattering uncontrollably, muscles jerking without permission. For a moment, you're confused. Burning doesn't make sense here. Nothing is warm enough to burn. Then you try to move your toes. They don't respond. Panic hits fast and ugly. You sit up and claw at your cloak, fumbling with stiff fingers until you expose your feet. The skin looks wrong, pale in places, waxy in others. The toes are swollen slightly, stiff and clumsy. You touch one with your finger and feel almost nothing, just pressure, like pressing into wood. You press harder. A dull, distant pain answers, delayed and muted. You pull your feet back against your chest and rub them hard, grinding skin against skin, ignoring the sting that blooms a moment later. You welcome it. Pain means blood. Pain means life. Your breath comes in ragged bursts as you work feeling back into them, whispering nothing to yourself, just breathing, rubbing, breathing. Around you, others are waking the same way. You hear sharp intakes of breath. You hear curses bitten off halfway. You hear men sucking air through their teeth as they discover hands that won't close properly, fingers that won't bend. Frostbite doesn't announce itself politely. It just arrives, quiet and permanent if you let it. The night has been brutal. The wind never stopped. Snow worked its way into every gap in clothing, melting just enough from body heat to soak fabric before freezing solid. Your cloak is a stiff shell now, cracking faintly when you move. Your beard, if you have one, is rimed with ice, your eyebrows too. The sky is a dull, oppressive gray when morning finally arrives. Cloud sits low and heavy, pressing down on the pass. Snow falls steadily, fine and dry, driven sideways by wind that never seems to tire. There is no fire this morning. There hasn't been for hours. The officers don't bother pretending there will be a proper start to the day. There was no formation ceremony, no shouted encouragement. Men simply stand when they can, pull their packs on with numb hands, and start moving, because staying still is worse.
You stand slowly, testing your weight. Your feet scream in protest, that burning sensation flaring again as blood tries to move through damaged flesh. You grit your teeth and force yourself upright. If you don't walk, you freeze. If you freeze, you die. The choice is simple, even if the cost isn't. The elephants don't rise easily today. One remains where it collapsed last night, sides barely moving. Frost has settled thick along its back and ears.
Its handlers stand over it, faces blank, exhausted beyond grief. They try once more to rouse it, touching, pulling, calling, but the animal doesn't respond. Eventually, they step back. You don't see what happens next, but you hear it. A sharp, ugly sound, a deep, wet exhale cut short. Then nothing. The handlers turn away. One of them wipes his face with the back of his hand and leaves blood smeared across his cheek where his skin has cracked. No one speaks about it. The carcass will be stripped later if there's time. Meat is meat now, even if it came from something that once felt invincible. The column moves again, smaller than it was yesterday. The path today is worse. Snow has filled in unevenly, hiding ice and broken stone beneath a deceptive surface. Each step is a gamble. You move stiffly, legs wide for balance, knees bent. Your breath rasps in your chest, every inhale a reminder that the air up here gives less than it takes. The cold is relentless. It doesn't just touch skin, it eats into you. It numbs your face until your cheeks feel like they don't belong to you anymore. It stiffens your jaw, making it hard to speak even if you wanted to. Your hands are claws now, fingers curled inward, reluctant to obey. You beat them against your thighs occasionally, just to feel something. Your mind starts to slip. Not dramatically, not yet, just little things at first. You forget what day it is. You forget how long you've been walking. You forget names of men you've marched with for months. The world narrows again, not just to survival, but to sensation, cold, pain, step, breath. At some point, the burning in your feet fades. That scares you more than when it hurt. You stomp harder, deliberately misplacing your foot to force sensation. A flash of pain answers, distant but real. You exhale shakily and keep going. You do this again and again throughout the day, testing yourself, checking that you're still there. The wind picks up around midday, screaming through the pass with renewed fury. Snow is driven into your face like needles. Your eyes water constantly, tears freezing at the corners. Visibility drops until you can barely see the man in front of you.
Then the hallucinations start. This time they're not smells or shapes. This time you hear water, running water, close, a stream maybe flowing freely over stone. The sound is clear and tempting, promising warmth and life. Your mouth fills with saliva instantly. Your throat tightens painfully. You turn your head, searching for it. There is nothing but snow and rock. The sound persists for a few steps, then fades, leaving behind only the wind and the crunch of boots. You swallow hard, jaw aching, and force your attention forward. You don't tell anyone. You're not sure they'd believe you. Or worse, you're afraid they would. Another man near you starts talking quietly to himself. Not muttering, having a conversation. His lips move steadily, words lost to the wind. He nods occasionally, as if agreeing with something only he can hear. His pace slows. He drifts closer to the edge of the path without realizing it. Someone grabs his packstrap and yanks him back hard, nearly pulling him off his feet. The man blinks, confused, then angry. He shoves back, shouting incoherently. It takes 2 men to restrain him. He's shaking violently, eyes glassy, face pale under grime. Eventually, they tie him more tightly into the rope line and push him forward. He stumbles along, half dragged, half walking, still talking to something that isn't there. The mountain doesn't punish you all at once today. It works patiently, systematically. Frostbite claims fingers. A man ahead of you drops his spear because his hand simply opens without him telling it to. When he bends to pick it up, he almost falls. Someone else grabs it for him and presses it back into his numb fingers. The man stares at his hand in horror, flexing it uselessly. By afternoon, his fingertips have turned dark and hard. No one comments. You catch sight of your own hands later and don't like what you see. The skin across your knuckles is pale and shiny, stretched tight. When you try to clench your fist, it resists. You force it closed anyway, teeth gritted, until pain flares. You hold it there for a moment, then release. You do this again and again, like a ritual.
The remaining elephants struggle visibly now. Their steps are slower, heavier. Their breath comes in loud, ragged pulls. Frost clings to their trunks. One stumbles badly and nearly goes down, saved only by its handler throwing himself bodily into its side, shouting, pushing. The handler looks small and desperate against the animal's bulk. You realize suddenly that if the elephant falls, the handler will go with it. There won't be time to cut free. There rarely is. The path dips slightly and then rises again into a section fully exposed to the wind. The cold here is vicious. It strips heat instantly. Your body responds by shivering harder, then, after a while, stops shivering altogether. That's worse. You feel oddly calm as it happens, detached. The burning sensation in your feet fades further. Your hands feel heavy and slow. Your thoughts drift, becoming fuzzy at the edges. A dangerous warmth starts to bloom in your chest. You recognize it just in time. You've heard of this. Men talk about it in whispers, about how the cold tricks you at the end, how it makes you feel warm, comfortable, sleepy, how people stop fighting it because it feels like relief. You bite down hard on the inside of your cheek. The pain snaps you back sharply. Blood floods your mouth, hot and metallic. You spit it out into the snow and welcome the taste. You stamp your feet again, harder this time, ignoring the jolt of pain. You slap your hands together repeatedly until your palms throb. You force yourself to focus on the man in front of you, on the sound of boots, on the wind, on the ache in your knee, anything but that creeping false warmth. Some men don't catch it in time. You see one sit down suddenly, right there on the path, back against the rock wall. He sighs deeply, eyes closing, expression peaceful. For a terrifying moment, he looks content. Two men rush to him immediately, shouting, grabbing his arms, trying to haul him upright. He resists weakly, mumbling something about resting, just for a moment. They drag him to his feet anyway and force him to walk, half carrying him between them. He's sobbing now, confused and frightened, the false warmth gone, replaced by pain and terror. You don't know if he'll survive the night. As daylight fades, the temperature drops even further. Snow thickens, swirling chaotically. The world becomes a white tunnel. Your eyelashes freeze together again. You blink them apart repeatedly, afraid of losing vision entirely. When the column finally stops, it's because it has to. There is no shelter, no good place, just a narrow section of path slightly less exposed than the rest. You pack in close to others automatically, bodies pressed together for shared warmth. There is no food tonight. Not for you. The last of the elephant meat is being rationed carefully among the worst cases, men already showing signs of collapse. You are still standing. That means you wait. Your stomach cramps violently, then settles into a dull, constant ache. You feel weak, hollow, stripped down to something thin and desperate. Your hands shake again, partly from cold, partly from hunger. You sit with your back against stone, knees drawn up, arms wrapped tight around yourself. The man beside you presses closer without asking. You don't object. His body heat feels faint but precious. Nearby, one of the elephants screams in its sleep, a low, broken sound that trails off into nothing. It echoes off the cliffs and makes something inside you twist. You think about fire. Not the abstract idea of warmth, but real fire, crackling wood, glowing embers, heat you can feel on your face. The thought is so vivid it almost hurts. You imagine holding your hands out to it, feeling life come back into your fingers. You open your eyes and see only snow and darkness. Sleep comes reluctantly, dragged out of exhaustion rather than comfort. When you dream, it's fragmented. Fire that won't light, hands that won't close, walking endlessly without leaving footprints. You wake repeatedly, jolted by the sensation that your feet are gone entirely. Each time you touch them, rub them, force pain back into them, then sink into shallow sleep again. By morning, when it finally comes, you understand something with brutal clarity. The cold is no longer just around you, it is inside you now. It is reshaping you, deciding which parts get to stay and which will be taken. Fingers, toes, sensation, strength. Eventually, if it wants enough, your will. You pull your frozen cloak tighter and prepare to stand again, because the mountain is not finished burning you yet. You wake already exhausted, as if sleep itself has become another thing that drains you instead of restoring anything. Your eyes open to a dim, colorless world where sky and snow blend into the same dull gray. For a moment, you don't know if it's morning or still night. Time has lost its edges up here. Your head feels thick, heavy, like it's filled with wet wool. When you try to think, the thoughts come slowly, sliding past one another without settling. You blink hard several times, and the world steadies just enough to function.
Your body hurts in ways you can't catalog anymore. Some pain is sharp, some is distant, some you only notice when it's gone. Your feet feel strangely light today, as if they're no longer fully attached to you. You stamp one experimentally and feel a delayed, muted response. It's enough to keep moving. That's all that matters. Hunger has shifted again. It's no longer just an ache or a cramp. It's a presence. It sits behind your eyes, presses against your thoughts, whispers constantly. Every decision filters through it. Every sound irritates you. Every delay feels like an insult. You feel brittle, close to snapping for reasons you can't quite articulate. The line moves without ceremony. No one calls out commands loudly anymore. Men know what to do, or they pretend to. You fall into step, because stopping means falling behind, and falling behind means disappearing. The wind has eased slightly, but the cold hasn't. It feels deeper now, settled in the bones of the mountain itself. Snow crunches underfoot with a sound that repeats too regularly, too loudly, until it starts to feel like it's happening inside your skull. Your breath rasps. Each inhale feels thinner than the last. You notice that you've started breathing through your mouth more often. Your lips are cracked and bleeding. Every breath tastes faintly of iron. At some point in the morning, the path widens briefly, just enough to let the columns spread out, just enough to give your mind space to wander. That's when the voices start. At first, you think someone is speaking behind you. The sound is familiar, comforting, completely out of place. You turn your head, squinting against the glare, expecting to see a face you recognize. There is no one there. The voice continues anyway, soft and steady, speaking your name the way it used to be spoken before all of this. Not shouted, not barked, spoken normally, calmly. It tells you to slow down. It tells you you're doing fine. It tells you there's no rush. Your chest tightens. You know this isn't real. You know it in the same way you know the sky is gray and the ground is snow. And still some part of you wants to listen, wants to believe that someone is watching out for you, that this suffering is being noticed by something that cares. You force your gaze forward and walk faster. The voice fades, replaced by the sound of boots and wind. Your heart is pounding harder than it should be. You swallow and feel how dry your throat has become again. Later, the hallucinations change. You start seeing movement where there is none, shapes at the edge of your vision, men stepping off the path, animals standing just beyond the snow, figures watching from the rocks. Every time you turn your head, they're gone. The emptiness feels deliberate, like something is hiding just out of sight. You stop trusting your eyes. That makes everything harder. A man ahead of you suddenly shouts and swings his spear wildly at nothing. He stumbles backward, eyes wide, breathing fast.
Men around him flinch instinctively, some raising weapons, others ducking. There is nothing there. The man keeps shouting anyway, pointing at the air, babbling about someone standing on the path, someone blocking the way. It takes 2 men to grab him and force his arms down. He struggles weakly, tears freezing on his cheeks as they drag him forward. You don't look at his face for long. You're afraid of recognizing something in it. By midday, the sun breaks through the clouds briefly, and the glare is blinding. Snow reflects light so harshly it feels like it's scraping the inside of your eyes. You squint until your head aches. Dark spots dance in your vision. That's when you see it. A fire. It's ahead of you, just off the path. Real fire, bright orange against the white, licking upward from a small pile of wood. You smell smoke, rich, comforting, unmistakable. You feel warmth on your face, even from this distance. Your body reacts before your mind can intervene. You step toward it. The rope at your waist snaps tight, instantly, jerking you back hard. Pain flares in your hip as you stumble. Someone behind you curses, bracing themselves to keep the line from shifting. You blink rapidly, heart hammering. There is no fire, just rock, snow, wind. The warmth drains out of you in a rush, replaced by embarrassment and fear. You keep your eyes fixed on the ground after that, terrified of what else your mind might invent. The elephants are quieter today, too quiet. They move mechanically, heads low, trunks dragging. Their handlers look worse than you feel, faces hollow, eyes sunken, movements automatic. One handler stumbles and nearly falls. The elephant beside him doesn't react at all. It just keeps moving, step after heavy step. You realize then that the animals are slipping into something similar to what's happening to you. They are enduring without understanding, moving because something pulls them forward, not because they want to. The afternoon is a blur. You walk, you stop, you walk again. Sometimes you're not entirely sure how you got from one place to the next. You catch yourself mid-step, uncertain whether your foot has landed or is still moving. You shake your head violently to clear it and keep going.
At one point, you're convinced you hear laughter ahead of you. Real laughter, warm and human. It makes your chest ache with longing. You almost smile. Then you realize it's the wind forcing air through a narrow crack in the rock, producing a sound just close enough to fool you. Your smile dies. As daylight fades, the cold sharpens again. Your thoughts grow slower, heavier. You start to forget why you're here. Not the abstract reason, Rome, Hannibal, war, but the immediate one, why you're walking, why stopping feels dangerous. You have to remind yourself consciously, if you sit down, you may not stand up again. That thought becomes a chant in your head. Don't sit, don't sit, don't sit. A man near you doesn't remember. He slows, then stops, then lowers himself carefully onto the snow as if performing a routine task. He sighs, long and deep, shoulders relaxing. His eyes close. For a moment, no one notices. Then someone shouts. Men rush to him, grabbing his arms, shaking him hard. He moans faintly, confused, resisting weakly. It takes effort to get him upright again. When he stands, his legs buckle immediately. He collapses a second time, heavier now. The officers look at each other. A decision passes between them without words. The rope is cut. The man is dragged to the inside of the path and propped against the rock. Someone presses a piece of cloth into his hands. Someone else shouts at him to stay awake. Then the line moves on. You don't know if he's alive when the snow covers him. You walk on, heart pounding, throat tight. The image of him sitting down so peacefully replays in your mind. The temptation scares you. The idea of rest feels dangerous now, like a lie meant to kill you gently. That night, camp is a misery of half-sleep and confusion. Men mutter in their dreams. Some cry out, some laugh. You hear arguments that don't exist, footsteps that aren't there. Every sound feels too close, too loud. You curl into yourself and press your face against your arm, trying to shut it all out. Your body shakes intermittently, shivers coming in waves. You bite down on your sleeve to keep your teeth from chattering too loudly. At some point, you're certain someone is sitting beside you, leaning against the rock, sharing your warmth. You can feel their presence clearly. You even feel comforted by it. When you open your eyes, there is only empty space. You don't know how long you lie there staring, waiting for something to happen. Eventually, exhaustion drags you under. Your dreams are vivid and cruel. You are warm, you are full, you are home. You wake smiling, only to choke back a sob when the cold and hunger crash back in. By the time morning threatens to arrive again, you understand the truth of what's happening. The mountain isn't just taking flesh anymore. It's taking your mind. It's blurring the line between what is real and what you want badly enough to believe. It's offering comfort where there is none, rest where rest will kill you. You pull your frozen cloak tighter around yourself and brace for another day, knowing now that survival isn't just about keeping your body moving. It's about holding on to reality with numb, shaking hands while the Alps whisper lies in your ear and wait for you to listen. You wake to a sound that doesn't belong in the mountains. It's too loud, too full, too alive. Your eyes open into darkness and blowing snow, and for a moment you think the hallucinations have finally crossed some line you can't come back from. Then the sound comes again, deep, vibrating, ripping its way out of the night, and you know exactly what it is. An elephant is screaming. Not the sharp panic cry you heard days ago, not the startled bellow of slipping feet. This is longer, lower. It drags on until it fractures into something almost human, and the echo rolls through the pass and comes back distorted, multiplied, as if the mountains themselves are answering. Men bolt upright around you. Someone swears, someone else prays. Snow slides off cloaks and shoulders as bodies shift. The wind carries the sound away and then slams it back again, louder than before. You force yourself to your feet, legs protesting violently. The cold hits you instantly, stealing what little warmth sleep pretended to give. Your stomach clenches, not just from hunger, but from a sense of approaching finality. That sound means something is ending. You push forward through the packed bodies, following the noise. No one stops you. Everyone is moving the same direction, drawn by it whether they want to be or not. The elephant is ahead, down the path, where the ledge widens just enough to gather men. Torches flicker weakly in the wind, their light smeared and uncertain. Snow whips through the flames, hissing as it dies on contact. You see the animal as a shape at first, massive, dark, wrong. Then the torchlight catches its face. Its eyes are wild, whites fully exposed. Frost cakes its trunk and lashes. Blood streaks down its legs where the skin has split open, dark against gray hide. One of its front legs is bent at an angle it was never meant to take. The foot doesn't sit flat anymore. It can't. The elephant tries to step forward and collapses instead, its weight slamming into the stone with a force you feel in your chest. The scream tears out of it again, louder, broken by pain. Handlers cling to it desperately, shouting, touching, pulling at ropes. Their faces are raw with exposure and grief. One of them is crying openly, tears freezing on his cheeks before they can fall. The elephant thrashes, trunk swinging wildly. It strikes the rock wall, cracks echoing. Men scatter backward to avoid being crushed. The rope lines go taut, then slack, then taut again as the animal struggles uselessly against its own failing body. You realize suddenly how dangerous this is, not just tragic, but catastrophic. A panicking elephant on a narrow ledge is not just dying, it's a threat to everyone near it. One wrong movement and it could take the path with it. It could drag men with it over the edge. The officers arrive quickly, faces hard, eyes calculating. They shout orders you can't hear over the wind and the screaming. Handlers argue back, desperation thick in their voices. They gesture, plead, shake their heads violently. You don't need to hear the words to understand the decision forming. The elephant screams again, weaker this time, breath hitching between cries. Its massive body shudders uncontrollably. The sound does something to you. It reaches inside and twists. You think about how far this animal has been forced to walk, how it was never meant to be here, how it doesn't understand any of this. And still, it keeps suffering because you need it to. A blade flashes in torchlight. You don't see who holds it, only the movement near the elephant's neck, the handlers being pulled away despite their resistance. One of them lunges forward again and is restrained by two soldiers. He fights them weakly, screaming something you can't hear. The blade rises. The elephant's scream cuts off mid-sound. For a heartbeat, there is nothing but wind. Then the animal exhales once, long and wet, and goes still. The silence afterward is heavier than the noise ever was. Men stand frozen, breath steaming, eyes fixed on the massive body slumped against the rock. The torches flicker, illuminating steam rising from the elephant's warm blood as it hits snow. The smell reaches you next. Iron, wet hide, something thick and animal that makes your stomach twist violently. You turn away and retch, dry and painful. There is nothing left to come up. Your throat burns, your eyes water, partly from the effort, partly from something you refuse to name.
There is no time. Orders come immediately. The carcass cannot stay whole, not here, not with food gone and men collapsing. Knives come out. Hands that can barely feel their fingers start working anyway. You don't want to watch. You watch anyway. Men cut into thick hide, hacking clumsily with blades dulled by ice and bone. Steam pours out as the body is opened, heat spilling into the night air like something wasted. The smell intensifies. Raw meat, blood, dung. Some men gag, others don't react at all. Hunger has already decided for them. Chunks of meat are cut free and passed back quickly, wrapped in cloth, shoved into packs. There is no ceremony, no thanks, just efficiency and desperation. You are handed a piece. It is heavy and warm through the cloth. You feel it against your palm, heat seeping into numb fingers. Your body reacts instantly. Saliva floods your mouth. Your stomach clenches painfully. You hesitate for half a second. Then you eat. The meat is tough and bloody and barely chewed before you swallow it. You don't taste it properly. You don't savor it. You just feed, tearing at it like an animal, teeth aching as you chew too fast. Warmth spreads through your chest in a way that feels almost painful after days of cold emptiness. Shame follows immediately, sharp and useless. You push it down. Shame doesn't keep you alive. The remains of the elephant are stripped as much as time allows. What can't be carried is left behind, massive and obscene against the white stone. Snow will cover it eventually. The mountain will take it back. The march resumes before dawn. There is no rest after this, no pause to process what you've done. The line moves again, thinner, quieter. The remaining elephants walk with heads even lower than before. One of them hesitates when it passes the place where the carcass lies, trunk lifting slightly as if sensing something wrong. Its handler yanks it forward sharply. You don't look at the carcass as you pass. You don't trust yourself if you do. The day that follows is brutal in a different way. The food gives you energy, but it's a cruel energy. Short-lived, sharp-edged. Your body wants more immediately. Hunger roars back faster than before, angry now, aware of what it's missing.
Your mind feels heavier. The image of the elephant's eyes keeps intruding when you don't want it to. The sound of the scream echoes in your head, repeating without warning. Each time, your chest tightens. Men are quieter today. No muttering, no laughter. Even the hallucinations seem to retreat for a while, as if the mind is busy processing something too large to distort. The cold doesn't let up. Snow continues to fall. The path remains narrow and treacherous, but something has shifted. You feel it in yourself. A line has been crossed. You have eaten something that should not have died like that. You have survived because it didn't. The exchange sits heavy in your gut, heavier than the meat itself. As night falls again and you huddle against rock and bodies, you realize the screaming has stopped. There are fewer elephants now. The mountains feel quieter without them, and the silence is worse. Sleep comes fitfully. When you dream, it's not of warmth or home anymore. It's a falling weight, of eyes wide in the dark, of sound cut short. By morning, you will walk again. You will keep walking because there is nothing else to do. But you understand now, with a clarity that doesn't fade, the Alps are not just killing you slowly. They are forcing you to survive by becoming someone you don't recognize. And there is no way back. You wake expecting more screaming. When it doesn't come, the silence feels wrong. It presses on your ears harder than the wind ever did. For a moment, you lie still, unsure whether the night has finally taken your hearing or whether the mountains are simply holding their breath. Then you hear it. Footsteps, many of them, ordered, controlled. Not the ragged shuffling of men barely upright, not the panicked scrambling of handlers and animals. These steps have rhythm, purpose. You push yourself upright, joints stiff, muscles protesting, and peer through the gray morning haze. Snow still falls, but lighter now, almost tentative. The wind has eased to a constant whisper instead of a scream. Men are moving ahead of you, not clustering in fear, not arguing, moving forward. And at the center of that movement, you see him, Hannibal. He is on foot. That strikes you first, before anything else. No horse, no elevation, just boots on the same ice and stone you're standing on. His cloak is rimed with frost, stiff with it, and his face is drawn thin from cold and hunger. One eye is bandaged, darkened beneath with bruising. His beard is crusted with ice. He looks exhausted. He also looks unbroken. You feel something loosen in your chest that you didn't realize had been locked tight. He moves slowly through the column, stopping often, gripping shoulders, steadying men who wobble. He doesn't shout. He doesn't give speeches. He just exists, solid and real, breathing the same thin air you are. You didn't know how badly you needed to see that. Men straighten unconsciously as he passes, not fully, not proudly, but enough to remind themselves they are still soldiers and not just bodies being dragged uphill by rope and fear. When Hannibal looks at you, just briefly, eyes sharp and assessing, you feel exposed, like he can see exactly how close you are to collapse. He doesn't linger. He nods once and moves on. The message is simple. He's still here. That means this isn't over. Orders follow quickly, passed down the line. The words spread faster than they have in days, carried by something close to urgency. You are near the top. Not the end, but close. The path ahead is still dangerous, still narrow, still cold, but the climb has changed. You feel it in your legs. The grade eases slightly. The air, while still thin, doesn't burn quite as sharply when you inhale. You start walking again with something that feels dangerously close to hope. The mountains don't let you have it easily. The pass you must cross today is the highest yet. The snow here is deep and wind-packed, sculpted into hard ridges and sudden drop-offs. The path disappears entirely in places, replaced by rough cuts made by men hacking at ice with tools barely fit for the task. You help when you can. Everyone does. You take turns scraping ice away, hauling planks forward, anchoring ropes.
Your hands scream in protest, fingers stiff and clumsy, but you force them to work anyway. The effort keeps you warm. Barely. The remaining elephants struggle here more than anywhere else. There are fewer now. Their absence is glaring. The ones that remain move with a kind of resigned determination, as if they've stopped questioning what's being asked of them. Their breath comes in heavy clouds. Frost coats their lashes and trunks. One slips badly on a patch of ice and nearly goes down. The handlers shout and shove, and by some miracle it regains footing. When it does, you hear men exhale around you in shaky relief.
No one wants to see another one fall. By midday, you crest the highest point of the pass. It doesn't announce itself with triumph. There's no marker, no sudden clarity, just a subtle shift. The wind changes direction. The snow under your feet feels different, less drifted, more settled. You realize you are no longer climbing. You are standing at the edge of something else. You step forward cautiously and look out. The view hits you hard. Below, through breaks in cloud, you see slopes descending. Not sheer cliffs, not endless jagged stone, but long, broken stretches of land that slope downward into haze. You see dark patches that might be trees. You see shapes that might be valleys. You see space. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like disbelief. Men gather slowly, quietly, staring down into the distance. Some laugh weakly. Some just stand there breathing hard, tears freezing on their faces. One man drops to his knees without warning and stays there, head bowed. You don't celebrate. You're too tired for that. The descent begins cautiously, almost reverently. Everyone knows going down can be just as deadly as going up. Ice still lurks beneath snow. Muscles are exhausted. Balance is fragile. But gravity is finally on your side. Your knees scream as you start down. Every step sends a jolt through joints already damaged by cold and strain. You grit your teeth and keep moving. The slope eases your breathing even as it punishes your legs. The air grows marginally thicker with each hour. You don't notice it at first. Then you realize you're not gasping as often. Your chest doesn't feel quite as tight. The cold is still there, but it has lost some of its bite. The wind doesn't cut as deeply. Snow gives way occasionally to exposed earth and stone. Earth. You hadn't realized how much you missed it. You smell something new in the afternoon. Not smoke, not blood, not waste. Pine. It's faint, carried on the wind, but unmistakable. It makes your throat tighten unexpectedly. You inhale deeply, almost desperately, as if trying to pull that smell into your bones. Men notice it too. You see heads lift, noses twitch. Someone laughs quietly, disbelieving. The mountains haven't released you yet, but they're loosening their grip. That night, camp is set lower than any you've had in days. There's marginal shelter from the wind. Fires actually burn, small but real, their heat reaching your hands instead of vanishing instantly. You hold your palms toward the flames and feel pain flare as blood moves back into damaged skin. You hiss and clench your jaw. The pain is brutal. You welcome it. Food is still scarce, but it feels less desperate now. You chew slowly, deliberately, forcing yourself not to rush. Your stomach still aches, but the edge has dulled slightly. You sleep more deeply than you have in a long time. Your dreams are still dark, but they don't tear you awake every hour. When you wake, the world is different. Not warm, not safe, but different. The snow line is higher now. Patches of brown and green peek through the white. The path widens in places. The rope at your waist is loosened, then finally removed altogether. The first time you walk without it, your body tenses automatically, expecting a jerk, a pull. It doesn't come. You are walking under your own balance again. You see men stumbling from weakness rather than cold. You see hands still blackened by frostbite,
toes wrapped and swollen, faces hollow. The damage is done. It won't undo itself just because the worst is behind you. And yet, you are alive. You watch Hannibal again as he moves among the men, still on foot, still enduring. He looks out over the descending land for a long time, jaw tight, eyes calculating. This is not relief for him. It is opportunity. For you, it is something else entirely. As the Alps fall behind you inch by inch, you realize the truth settling in your gut with heavy certainty. Crossing the mountains did not save you. It broke you just enough to let you continue. You will march into Italy carrying this cold inside your bones. You will fight with hands that don't feel the same. You will wake at night hearing screams that aren't there. But you are walking downhill now. And for the first time in a long time, the mountain is no longer trying to stop you. It has taken what it wants. What remains is yours to carry forward. You wake with a strange, weightless feeling, like the ground has subtly tilted and forgotten to tilt back. For a moment you think you're falling again, that sick lurch in your stomach returning, but then you realize what it is.
You are not climbing. The slope beneath you runs downward now, gentle enough that your body leans forward instead of fighting gravity. Your muscles, conditioned for endless ascent, overcorrect at first. Your knees lock, your balance wobbles. You have to relearn how to walk. That alone should feel like relief. It doesn't. Your legs shake worse going down than they ever did going up. Every step sends a jolt through joints that have been ground thin by cold and hunger. Your knees feel loose, unreliable, as if the bones inside aren't lined up correctly anymore. Pain flashes hot and sharp, then fades into a dull throb that never quite leaves. Around you, men move like ghosts. They are thinner now, faces sunken, eyes too large for skulls that have lost fat. Beards hang ragged and ice-stiff, then slowly soften as the air warms by degrees you barely notice. Some men limp badly, favoring feet that no longer bend right. Others walk stiff-legged, afraid to trust joints that feel like they might give out without warning. You see hands wrapped in dirty cloth, fingers darkened, nails black. You see men who can no longer fully close their fists. You see a man stop suddenly, staring at his hand as if it belongs to someone else, flexing it again and again with mounting panic. No one helps him, not because they don't care, but because everyone is doing the same silent inventory of their own damage. You descend through terrain that should feel merciful, but doesn't. Loose stone slides underfoot. Mud appears beneath melting snow, slick and treacherous. Where ice once threatened to kill you quickly, now it's the slow, careless slip that could snap a leg and leave you behind. You understand this instinctively. Falling uphill hurt. Falling downhill ends things. The column stretches out more than before. There is space now between bodies, and that space feels dangerous. Without the pressure of others, without the rope, you are alone with your balance and your weakness. You watch the ground constantly, scanning for hazards, because your mind no longer trusts your body to react in time. You smell earth more strongly today. Wet soil, rotting leaves, pine needles crushed under boots. The smells should feel comforting. Instead, they make something tighten in your chest. They remind you of normal seasons, of places where people live without constantly fighting the land. The contrast makes the suffering sharper, not easier. You hear birds. At first, you think it's another hallucination, a trick of the wind. But the sound repeats, irregular and alive. You stop walking without meaning to, head turning upward. A small bird flits between branches not far off the path, dark against dull green. It chirps once, then again, completely unconcerned with the army crawling out of the mountains below it. You stare at it until it disappears. Something about that hurts more than the cold ever did. Men begin to collapse in a different way now, not from freezing, not from panic, from exhaustion. Their bodies have been running on nothing but fear and momentum, and now that the worst danger has passed, that momentum bleeds away. You see it happen again and again, men slowing, posture sagging, steps growing uncoordinated. One man stumbles, catches himself, laughs weakly as if embarrassed. A few steps later, he stumbles again and goes down hard. This time, he doesn't get up. Two men rush to him, hauling him upright by the arms. His head lolls forward. His eyes are open but unfocused. He tries to speak, and only air comes out. They half drag him along for a while, feet scraping uselessly. After some distance, they stop. They exchange a look that says everything without words. They lower him carefully against a tree. Someone presses a water skin to his lips. He doesn't drink. The column moves on. You don't look back. The cold continues to ease as the day goes on, but the relief feels wrong, like a trap. Your body doesn't know how to warm up properly anymore. When sunlight breaks through the clouds and touches your skin, it doesn't feel pleasant. It feels invasive. Your skin prickles painfully. You pull your cloak tighter out of instinct, even though you don't need to. Your thoughts start drifting again, not hallucinations, not quite, but memories intruding without permission. You remember small, useless details, the feel of warm bread in your hands, the sound of water poured into a cup, the way your body used to respond when you told it to do something. These memories don't comfort you. They feel like accusations. The elephants, what remains of them, are behind you now. You hear them sometimes far back in the column, their heavy steps dull against softer ground. Their presence feels distant, like an echo from another life. They survived the pass, but they are ruined by it. Their hides sag, their movements are slow and careful. They look like old things now, prematurely aged by cold and fear. You realize you feel the same way. That night, camp is set in a shallow valley protected from the worst wind. Fires burn easily, wood snaps and crackles. The heat reaches your face in waves strong enough to make you flinch. Men gather close, not just for warmth, but because being alone feels unbearable now. You sit near the fire and watch the flames dance, mesmerized. Your hands ache intensely as blood moves back into damaged tissue. The pain is sharp and deep, like needles pushed under your nails. You grit your teeth and endure it because you know what it means. You are still alive. Food is distributed, slightly more than before, but not enough to feel full. You eat slowly, forcing yourself to chew properly. Your stomach protests anyway, cramping as it tries to remember how digestion works. Someone nearby starts crying quietly. Not sobbing, not loudly, just tears leaking down his face as he stares into the fire. No one tells him to stop. No one comforts him either. There's no space left for that. Sleep comes heavier now, dragging you under whether you want it or not. When you dream, it's not of the mountains anymore. It's of walking endlessly through forests without direction, following paths that split and split again until you don't know which one you came from. You wake with your heart racing and the strange certainty that something important has been left behind up there in the snow. The next day confirms what you've begun to suspect. The men who survive the Alps are not the same men who entered them. You see it in the way people move, guarded, brittle, flinching at sudden sounds. You see it in the way laughter doesn't quite return, even when there's reason for it. You see it in the way men hoard scraps of food without realizing they're doing it. You feel it in yourself most of all. Your hands don't feel like yours anymore. Your feet respond slowly. Your balance is unreliable. And beneath all of that, something else has shifted. Your sense of safety, of expectation. You no longer believe the world will catch you if you fall.
You no longer believe suffering has an end just because circumstances improve. As you descend further into Italy, the land grows greener, valleys widen, water runs freely, villages appear in the distance, smoke rising peacefully from chimneys. They look unreal. You watch them the way you'd watch a story told by someone else, unable to connect it to your own body. You half expect the ground to vanish again, the cold to surge back, the wind to scream. It doesn't. The Alps are behind you now. But as you walk into lower land with ruined men and crippled animals, you understand the truth with unsettling clarity. You did not leave the mountains whole. You left pieces of yourself scattered along the path, frozen, broken, buried under snow and stone. What's walking forward now is what survived, and survival has changed you into something quieter, harder, and far more fragile than you ever expected to be. You wake to warmth and immediately distrust it. The fire nearby has burned down to coals, glowing faintly red, and the air around you is almost comfortable. Almost. Your body reacts before your mind does, muscles tense, breath catches, heart quickens as if comfort itself is a threat. It takes several long seconds to accept that the warmth is real and not another trick meant to kill you. When you sit up, the movement feels wrong, not painful in the sharp way you've come to expect, but unsteady. Your balance lags behind your intention. You sway slightly and have to plant a hand in the dirt to keep from toppling over. Dirt. The texture registers slowly, then all at once, cool, damp, unmistakably alive. You stare at your hand. The skin is cracked and swollen, knuckles raw, fingertips darkened and stiff. When you curl your fingers, they respond, but sluggishly, like they're underwater. You flex them again, harder until pain blooms. The pain grounds you. You welcome it. Around you, men are waking in the same quiet, cautious way. No one jumps up anymore. No one stretches eagerly. Bodies unfold slowly, carefully, as if any sudden movement might break something permanently. The camp feels strange. There are trees here, real ones, with bark and needles and branches that creak softly in the breeze. The wind itself is different. It moves through leaves instead of screaming through stone. You hear water nearby, a stream running openly, unconcerned with freezing. The sound makes your throat tighten. Someone laughs suddenly, sharp and startled, like they didn't expect the sound to come out of their own mouth. It dies quickly, embarrassment following close behind. No one joins in. Food arrives. Not much, but more than you've seen in days. A ladle of thin porridge, a piece of bread that bends instead of snapping. The smell hits you hard. Warm grain, faint steam, and your stomach clenches violently. Your mouth fills with saliva. Your hands shake as you take the bowl. You eat too fast. The first few bites go down eagerly, almost desperately. You barely chew. You swallow like you're afraid it will be taken away if you don't hurry. The warmth spreads through your chest, and for a moment you feel dizzy with relief. Then the pain hits. It starts low in your gut, a sharp, twisting sensation that makes you gasp. You freeze, spoon hovering uselessly over the bowl. The pain intensifies rapidly, cramping hard enough to make you double over. You groan despite yourself, clutching your stomach as nausea surges. Around you, it's happening everywhere. Men bend forward suddenly, faces contorting. Someone retches loudly, another drops his bowl entirely and curls inward, shaking. Bodies that have forgotten how to be fed are rebelling violently. You force yourself to slow down. You breathe through clenched teeth and wait for the worst of it to pass before taking another tiny bite. Even then, your stomach protests, gurgling angrily as if it doesn't trust this sudden generosity. Warmth feels like a lie now. The fire hurts your skin when you sit too close. The sunlight, when it breaks through the trees later, makes your eyes water and your head pound. Your body has adapted to cold so completely that heat feels aggressive, invasive. You pull your cloak tighter even as sweat beads along your spine. Men talk quietly around you, voices low and careful. Not about Rome, not about victory. They talk about feet that won't heal, fingers that don't bend, dreams they can't shake. A man shows another his toes, blackened, numb, and laughs weakly as if it's a joke. The other man doesn't laugh back. As the day goes on, the march resumes through lower land. The path is wide enough now that you don't fear every step. Grass crunches underfoot instead of ice. Mud sucks at your boots. The ground feels forgiving in a way that almost makes you suspicious. Villages appear closer now. You pass fields gone brown with winter, fences half buried in frost, smoke curling lazily from distant chimneys. You smell cooked food carried faintly on the air, and the scent hits you harder than hunger ever did. Your chest tightens painfully. You swallow and keep your eyes forward. When villagers see you, their reactions are mixed. Some stare openly, eyes wide with shock. Others retreat quickly, doors slamming shut, faces disappearing behind shutters. You understand why when you catch sight of your reflection in a pool of water. You barely recognize yourself. Your face is gaunt, skin stretched tight over bone. Your eyes look too large, too dark. Your beard is ragged, patchy with frost damage. Your lips are split and scabbed. You look like something that crawled out of a disaster rather than marched through it. The children who watch you from a distance don't smile. They look frightened. That night, camp is set near water and trees with actual shelter from wind. Fires burn freely. Food is cooked more carefully now, portions measured, instructions shouted to eat slowly. You sit by the fire and try to let your body relax. It won't. Every time you close your eyes, you feel the sensation of slipping, of rope tightening around your waist, of cold burning your feet. Your muscles remain tense, ready to react to dangers that aren't there anymore. When you finally lie down to sleep, the ground feels too soft. You shift restlessly, uncomfortable without stone pressing into your back. You wake repeatedly, heart racing, convinced you've heard screaming. There is none. The mountains are silent now, far behind you, but they don't feel gone. In the days that follow, more men collapse, not from cold, not from falls, but from what comes after survival. Bodies finally allowed to stop begin to fail. Infections bloom in wounds ignored too long. Frostbitten tissue turns black and useless. Fevers rise. You watch a man lose 2 fingers to rot. You watch another's foot swell until he can't walk anymore. He's loaded onto a cart with others like him, faces pale, eyes distant. You don't know if they'll survive the journey. You don't ask. Hannibal rides now. That's when you notice it, how seeing him mounted feels wrong after watching him suffer on foot. He looks smaller somehow, farther away, still commanding, still focused, but no longer sharing the same pain step by step. The army changes shape as you move deeper into Italy. You look less like an invading force and more like a procession of survivors dragging the evidence of a catastrophe behind them. Warmth returns gradually, unevenly. Some days feel almost mild. Some nights still bite hard. Your body never fully trusts either. You keep waiting for the cold to surge back without warning. When rain falls instead of snow, it unsettles you more than it should. Wet feels dangerous now. Wet means cold later. You startle easily. A dropped pot makes you flinch violently. A shout sends your heart racing. Even laughter makes you tense until you identify it as harmless. You are not alone in this. The men around you move the same way, alert, guarded, brittle. You see it in their eyes when they scan ridgelines that pose no threat. You see it in the way they sleep lightly, waking at the smallest sound. The Alps taught you all the same lesson. Safety is temporary. One evening, as you sit near a fire that finally feels like warmth instead of pain, you realize something that sinks into you slowly and heavily. You survived the crossing, but survival did not mean escape. The mountains didn't just test you and let you go, they altered you. They rewired how you respond to the world. They taught your body and mind to expect catastrophe as the default state. You can eat again. You can sleep again. You can feel warmth again. But none of it feels real yet. As you stare into the fire, watching embers pulse and fade, you understand that the cold march did not end when the snow stopped. It ended inside you. And whatever comes next, battles, victories, death, will be faced by someone shaped by ice, hunger, and fear in ways that will never fully melt away. You pull your cloak tighter, even though you don't need to, and sit with the fire until it burns low, knowing that comfort has become something you no longer know how to trust. You wake before dawn, not because of cold or hunger, but because your body no longer understands what rest is supposed to feel like. The air is mild compared to the mountains, soft enough that your breath doesn't sting, but you still wake with your jaw clenched and your shoulders tight, as if bracing for a fall that never comes. For a few heartbeats, you don't remember where you are. Then the memories settle back into place, heavy and familiar. The Alps are behind you. Italy lies ahead. The march continues. You sit up slowly and listen. There is no screaming wind, no cracking ice, no distant rockfall, just insects, faint and tentative, and the quiet movement of men stirring in camp. The silence should be peaceful. Instead, it feels incomplete, like a sound has been removed but your ears are still waiting for it. Your body carries the mountains with it. When you stand, your feet complain immediately. The ground is soft here, forgiving, but your steps are uncertain anyway. Your toes don't land evenly. One foot feels shorter than the other, as if part of it never came back. You adjust your gait without thinking. You've learned how to compensate. Your hands are the same, fingers stiff, grip weaker than it used to be. You test them around your spear and feel the familiar frustration rise. You crush it down. Anger is useless now. Adaptation is what kept you alive. Around you, the army wakes in pieces. Some men stretch cautiously, some don't bother. A few stare blankly at nothing, already awake long before their bodies decided to move. Fires are rebuilt easily here, wood abundant, flame cooperative. Smoke rises lazily instead of being torn away. You watch it drift upward and disappear, and feel a strange, hollow sadness you can't explain. Breakfast comes, and you eat slowly this time, deliberately. You've learned the cost of forgetting how. The food sits better now, though your stomach still knots occasionally, unsure whether it trusts the routine. You sip water instead of gulping it, even though you want to. Discipline has become internal, not imposed.
As the column forms, you realize something quietly unsettling. No one is talking about the Alps anymore. Not directly, not out loud. The mountains are absent from conversation the way a wound is absent from sight once it's bandaged. Still there, still aching, just no longer exposed. Men talk about the road ahead, about Roman scouts, about supplies, about towns they might reach, practical things, necessary things. But you see the truth in the pauses, in the way men hesitate when the ground slopes suddenly, in the way heads snap up at the sound of falling stones, even when it's just a mule kicking loose gravel, in the way no one walks near an edge unless they have to, even now, even when the drop is shallow and harmless. You march through land that grows gentler by the day. Valleys open, rivers widen, fields stretch out in long, uneven lines shaped by hands instead of glaciers. You pass farms abandoned for winter, fences leaning, tools left where they were dropped months ago. Life paused here and expects to resume. You don't know how to do that. When you see people now, Real people, not enemies or shadows. You react too slowly or too sharply. Villagers watch you from a distance, wary, whispering. Some bring offerings cautiously, bread, wine, olives. You accept them with stiff nods, unsure how to respond to kindness that doesn't demand something immediately. The first time a woman smiles at you, just briefly, just politely, you don't know what to do with it. Your face doesn't remember how to answer. That night, you dream of snow again. Not falling, not storming, just endless flat white stretching in every direction. You are standing in it alone, calling out names you can't quite remember. When you wake, your heart is pounding, and your hands are clenched into fists so tight your nails have cut your palms. You stare at the ceiling of your tent and wait for the fear to pass. It does.
Slowly, not completely. Days pass, then more days. The army moves deeper into Italy, and the land grows richer, greener. Supplies improve. The men begin to look less like survivors and more like soldiers again, at least from a distance. Up close, the damage is obvious. Frostbite doesn't heal cleanly. Toes blacken and fall away. Fingers lose feeling permanently. Infections linger. Men walk with limps that will never straighten out. Some are sent away to recover. Some refuse, afraid that stopping means being left behind in a different way. You overhear laughter one afternoon, real laughter, not the brittle sound you've grown used to, and it startles you so badly you nearly drop your spear. You turn sharply, scanning for danger, only to find two men joking quietly over a shared memory from before the march. They stop laughing when they see your face. You force yourself to nod and move on, embarrassed by your reaction. But the truth settles in hard and cold. You are no longer calibrated for normal life. The Alps changed the scale of things. Small discomforts no longer register. Big ones arrive without warning. Fear feels different now, not sharp and immediate, but low and constant, like a background noise you can't turn off. Even on clear days, with blue sky overhead and birds calling from trees, part of you remains convinced that something catastrophic is about to happen. That's what survival taught you. You see Hannibal occasionally, always surrounded, always focused. He looks ahead, not back. He speaks of strategy, of Rome, of battles yet to come. The men listen. They believe in him. Maybe they have to. You listen too, but part of you knows that whatever happens next will not be the worst thing you've endured. You've already learned how bad it can get. That knowledge settles into you like a second spine, stiffening everything. One evening, as the sun sets over a low ridge and paints the land in soft orange light, you stop walking for a moment and look back. The Alps are no longer visible. They are too far behind, hidden by distance and terrain. To anyone else, they might as well not exist at all. You feel a strange mix of relief and unease. They can't hurt you anymore. They don't need to.
The mountains left their mark somewhere deeper than skin, in the way your body reacts before your mind, in the way you hoard warmth, food, silence, in the way you no longer expect fairness from the world. That night, you sit alone for a while, away from the fires, listening to the quiet sounds of a land that doesn't want to kill you. Crickets, water moving gently, leaves stirring. You try to let it in. You try to believe that this is real. Your mind resists at first, searching for threats out of habit. Then, gradually, reluctantly, it begins to loosen its grip. Not fully, never fully. You understand now that the crossing was not just a march, it was a separation. There is the person you were before the Alps, confident, intact, still believing endurance was mostly about strength. And there is the person you are now. Someone who knows that survival is about compromise, about loss, about choosing which parts of yourself to sacrifice so the rest can keep moving. You will fight Rome. You will bleed again. You may even win. But no victory will erase the memory of ice burning your feet, of elephants screaming into the dark, of men vanishing without a sound into cloud and stone. Those things don't fade. They settle. As you lie down to sleep, the ground beneath you soft and forgiving, you close your eyes and feel the absence of cold. It feels unnatural. You breathe slowly, deliberately, teaching your body that it is allowed to rest, even if it doesn't believe you yet. Somewhere far behind you, the Alps stand unchanged, indifferent, already forgetting your passage. You do not forget them. You carry them forward, into battle, into memory, into every quiet moment where your hands shake for no visible reason and your heart prepares for danger that never comes. You crossed the mountains. They crossed you back. And long after the march ends, long after the war decides your fate, the cold will still be there, deep in your bones, a reminder of the place where survival stopped being heroic and became something raw, costly, and permanent. You inhale, you exhale, you are alive, and the Alps will never let you forget what that cost.